Greetings, friends. I hope that you're well today. I have been having a fantastic day myself as I have just been thinking and pondering about where we left off in the refills last week. And last week, we left off on trust and trusting God when we're buried. And that just kept ruminating in my soul and in my spirit. Today, today I want to go a little bit deeper and I'm going to actually talk about trust beneath the soil. Whew, so good. In talking about trust beneath the soil and really getting to where I am now in my understanding of trust and understanding of us being buried and the trees of righteousness and all of that, I wanted to just go back and spend a little bit more time in Jeremiah 17 because, you know, sometimes we just when we refill on the word, it's really great to just keep going back and tasting it some more and seeing what new is available and what new can be uncovered. And so that's exactly what I did with Jeremiah 17, 7 and 8. And today, for the refill, I really just want to key in and focus on Jeremiah 17, 7. And so I'm reading from the New American Standard Bible, and it says, "Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and whose trust is the Lord." And I think that that's so cool. It's such a good word, right? Like, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and the trust is the Lord. And as I was reading that, I was like, man, God, um, what are you saying here? I'm seeing two differences, right? Initially, I'm seeing uh, the trust is in the Lord. That's one. And the trust is the Lord. That's two. And I'm like, what is the differences before in how your name is used here? And honestly, I'm thinking it's either in it or is. And so I'm like, man, what is it? So then I go to my Strong's Concordance and I go to my Vines and a couple of different things, landed on the Blue Letter Bible, even read the same scripture in the TLV. And the phrase "in the Lord" or "is the Lord" really, they both translate to the same thing, Jehovah. Okay, that's not where the difference is. But in my spirit, I just really felt like something was different in this clause A and clause B of this text. So I was like, man, what is it? What are you trying to tell me? So as I was looking, I realized that where the difference was in the trust, right? There's two different trusts here. Now, King James, New American Standard, like what I just read, and many other texts translate the word as this particular Hebrew word into trust. But in Hebrew, it's actually two different words. They just have the same root word. And so it's actually two different kinds of trust happening here. Now, the first trust that we see, trust in the Lord, that is the Hebrew word is batak. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it, batak. And that is an active word. It's a verb. It means it's actually having the reliance, actively relying on what someone says, actively believing. Whereas the second trust in the verse 7 rather is the word mivtak, and that word translates to confidence, which then makes sense when I went and I read the living the I keep want to call it the Living Bible. It's the Tree of Life Bible, which is the Messianic Jewish Bible. When I went and I read that Bible, it said trust and confidence, and I was like, okay, that's what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew actually boils down to, not boils, it translates from to trust and confidence. Batak and Miftak. What's really cool is that in some of the other versions, the New American Standard, King James, and other versions, they translate that word the same because they have the same root word, but they're a little bit different. One, the first trust, right? The trust is in the Lord. That's an action. It's a verb. The second trust is actually a noun, which is a person, place, or thing. So it's a person, place, or thing where that verb is going to. So that verb, that action is being directed towards a person, place, or thing. Well, the action of trust is being directed to God. And because it's directed to God, and because, as we said, as we're learning, our trust is built underground, it's actually like rooted in God. And so, as I just continued to process that and to study that and write and just go from where we were last week when we were talking about buried for good, and that it all boils down to trust, and we have to be put our trust in God, that we're buried. And when we're in our buried seasons, we have to do the root work. Well, the root work is actually the roots itself, right? Now, as I'm unpacking this with the Lord, let me tell you what He showed me. He showed me that the root, right, the plant that's planted, is actually which is in the soil, right? It's obvious. We can see it. It's in the soil. But the soil is God Himself. And every part of that plant's being, every part of that plant's way of life, that is and how it can even survive, its survival is, one, from the soil, and two, it's held up by the soil. The roots grow out and find more ways to anchor itself within the soil. And as it continues to grow, as I said last week on Friday, it grows out, and as far as it grows out and as deep as it grows down is as far as the branches and the canopy grow up and grow out, because the roots allow for it to be stable, what we see on the outside to be stable, steady, secure, and abundant. But if you have a problem with your roots, then you have a problem with the branches and ultimately your fruit. So trust, as I said, our roots are trust, are all built underground. Very few plants, very few trees have roots that come out from the ground. But rest assured, when you see a tree with hardy roots that are coming out of the ground, their roots that are below the surface are still far deeper than what is exposed above ground. And so, as I said, the roots are what stabilize the tree. That's what allows for the tree to grow. But what's really cool about the soil, and what God showed me about the soil, and even in Him being the soil, is that the soil serves a couple of different purposes for the tree. First purpose that it's going to serve is it actually nurtures the tree. The soil is comprised of varying nutrients like nitrogen and other things, in order for the tree to draw in and to be able to consume, to be able to strengthen itself, and ultimately to be able to grow, right? And survive. But the soil itself also stabilizes the tree. It cradles the tree in, it wraps it up, and it holds it, and it keeps it safe. Like, they work together, which is the reason why the soil is the Lord. How do we apply that to our life, right? As I think about today's refill, and I think about what God is saying about trust being built underground, and that trust is the roots. I think about, what does that say for our lives? Well, in our lives, we're rooted. In our lives, we have multiple roots, and depending on where what we're working on, and what's happening, what kind of roots are being developed. As you read and you study the word, those are roots being developed for your spiritual growth, your spiritual walk. How deep those spiritual roots go, how wide they go, and how much they continue to mature is how our own lives are then expressed in maturity. It's how we're able to counsel friends and loved ones better because we have the word. It's how we're able to love our husbands and our wives better because we have the word. Like, all of that is the conduit, the structure for a good life. Likewise, trust is the business infrastructure. Think about it like this. When I walked in and I sat down in this chair I trusted. What's really cool is I trusted that every nail, every screw, every crossbeam, every piece of webbing was all working together so that I could sit down and I would be able to be steady. That's trust. The roots are the fact that when I was very young, my parents sat on chairs. I trusted them. I sat on chairs. Chairs held them up. Trust is really and truly innate, in my opinion, to humankind. Because unless somebody breaches our trust, we really start out believing a person for their word, for their actions. And in the same manner, because we start out and we're rooted in trust, we can trust God in what he says. We can trust him in what he says according to our business and according to the rest of our lives. And when we're building business and we're building an entrepreneurship or we're building our career, there's certain roots that have to come from us. Now, I know, and I've said before, I'm called to be a designer. But until I went to school to actually hone the skills and learn the things that I needed to learn about the craft of design, about the techniques of design and the science of design and AutoCAD and drafting and all of these things, about patterns and textures and textiles and all of those things, about architectural and interior design history and all of those things. Until I was able to take that and learn and grow from them and go through the trials of studying and schoolwork and go through all of that process, I couldn't do anything on the top. I had to create new roots in order to stabilize my tree so that it could grow bigger and I could actually be able to serve people, because that's what the external portion of the tree is to serve others. Um, and so then as we continue on in our calling and answer the call to be entrepreneurs and design business owners, there's more roots that have to produce. You've produced the roots that maintain and establish you as a designer, but then there's also roots that you have to grow and cut and produce. And those new roots are typically called taproots. Like, those are the main roots. And that's the behind the scenes work. That's things like our design fees, establishing your fee structure, how you're going to do that, contracts, policies. And then there's the planning, your monthly planning, your quarterly planning, your annual planning. And then What is even the vision of the business that you're starting? What is the mission? What are you doing? Who are you called to serve? All of those things are roots that allow for your tree to be stable, that allow for you ultimately to produce fruit in the end. And that's the fruit of your service. The fruit of the tree is the service that we do to our clients. The roots and the other portions of the tree that lend to that fruitful season, rather, all of that is underground work. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to take one of these. I'm going to talk about design fees. There was a point in time when I had no fees. My fees were all over the place, okay? And I had no idea how to charge for anything. I knew one thing. I knew after having read a study on ASID that I wanted to begin charging for my design services via a flat rate, right? I didn't want to charge hourly anymore. The study that I read in ASID said that clients are more inclined to flat rates than they are to hourly rates, especially in design. And so I took that knowledge, that information, and as I took that information in, a new root began to grow out. But as I said the other day, you grow a root, you encounter, like as the root is growing, it may encounter a rock, it may encounter some type of obstacle that it has to go around in order to grow and go deeper. And for me, getting my fees right was very important in order to be able to have a productive and a prosperous business. And so I messed up plenty of times. I charged far too little for a whole home remodel once. I have over budgeted and under budgeted, really mostly under budget. Now I've in the beginning I hardly ever over budgeted. I under budgeted on time on many parts of the design process as I didn't have the understanding. But all the while, a new route is being developed within my structure so that I could do more and do better. And so, as time progressed, and I got counsel and mentorship from elder designers, more seasoned designers, I was able to set and establish what my design fees are. And because I was able to set and establish them, I knew like there was a new level of trust, a new level of confidence that had been produced because I had a new level of security in how I was moving and operating within my entrepreneurship journey. And because I know that my fees are fair and that my fees are aligned with the value in which I present and the services that I render, I am stable. My tree is stable. And because all of even that is in the soil, which is God, I know it's even more stable. Even my fees, I've taken them back to the Lord and asked the Lord, is this what you say, God? Is this what you say I should do, oh God? And then we move on from there. Now, again, in this light, trust is the business infrastructure. It's not just on the systems and processes like I just talked about, but it's also on the outward. It's also the fact that our clients trust us when they can't see us. Yet we still deliver what we've said we're going to, and that is trust. Again, trust is innate. It is in our being to trust. And that's what I love about God so much. As I'm studying this now, it's in my being to trust. And because it's in my being to trust, I'm understanding now that I can trust God when things get heavy. Why? Because I'm in Him. I'm literally planted in Him. And He's nurturing me and He's cradling me in the process. Trust is easy when you know that it rests in God. This was yummy. I thought it was yummy. I'm super excited as I was studying this, and I hope that it thrills you too. And I hope that you're able to take that understanding and chew on it and eat on it, and then come back and let's chat some more about what God is saying concerning trust, concerning our spiritual life, and concerning our business as designers, and the service that we provide as designers. Because interior design is ministry. And friends, we were called to serve. So go forth, design, serve, thrive, and I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget that if you enjoyed this video, to subscribe to this channel for more. Like, comment, share this with other designers just like you so that we all can grow and we can advance the kingdom in the name of Jesus. Be blessed.